G'day and welcome back. Today I have another radiogram. It's been in our spare bedroom for a couple of years now and people have to clamber over it if they're staying with us, so I thought I'd better get rid of it and cheer the wife up. It's a Kriesler multisonic radiogram. Now you can barely read that. I don't know if it's supposed to have lights behind it or it's just faded, but it's really hard to see without getting down to where I am now. I think this was built in the mid-60s. It's a bit ahead of its time. It looks more like it's from the 70s. The speakers are housed behind a sliding door, so the fabric is perfect. It's absolutely perfect. The one on this side doesn't open all the way. Something's stopping it. It should come right back here somewhere. But once again, the fabric is perfect. The cabinet itself is in pretty good condition, but it's had stuff sitting on the top here. The finish, I think, is Danish oil. The wood they've used is particle board and the veneer has chipped away along the edges here. A little bit here and over here it's missing along the edges. Really I could probably just fill those and just touch them up with a bit of paint or something to get the colour right. The radio is pretty basic. It's AM only. It has on, off, tone, radiogram, volume, some balancing there and tuning. And that's about it. There's a couple of inputs on the end there and an output, I assume, for tape or something. Now the record player is a garage unit. It's a 1025, I think. There's a couple of records in there. Oh, a bit of Marty Robbins, Neil Sedaka, The King and I. Not sure what that is, and those fabulous 50s. This was up for auction at my radio club a couple of years ago, and my wife always accompanies me when I go to the auctions. When they started to auction it, it started, I think, about $40. It went down to $30, $20. There's no takers. I was having a look at it over the side there. My wife was still sitting in the middle of the room. And it had got to $5 and stalled, and I thought, oh, I'll go for it. So I put my hand up and said, $5. And there was an audible gasp from my wife in the centre of the room, and everyone started laughing. Anyway, we put it in my car. I brought it back here. I did plug it in when I got home. The radio worked. The record player works to a fashion. I'll move it out of this room into my work room. I'll pull the radio out. We can have a look at that. Take out the record player, and I'll see what I can do with the case. I've moved the radiogram into my workroom. Here's the back of it, and here's the damaged bit on the back of the lid. There's a schematic on the back there, but the bugs have got to it, so not much use. I can barely read that. I'm pretty sure the model is an 11104. I'll remove the back and I'll let the lids go as well. There it is. It's very dirty. I'll have to get the vacuum in there and clean it all up before I do anything. There's a couple of wires here. Not sure what they are. There's something in there. What's that? It looks, that's the center post of the record player? Maybe. Now, it's only got two speakers. They look like 8-inch roller speakers. That's pretty ordinary for this time period. I would have thought they'd have some tweeters or something. There's the radio chassis. It's mounted vertically. I assume it'll just come out the top. I'll clean up all this mess and take the radio out and we can have a look at it on the bench. As I was undoing the screws to remove the radio, I was lucky enough to pick up a little metal splinter in the end of my finger here. So I was able to use my new digital microscope to remove the splinter. I knew this thing had come in handy one day. I have the chassis on the bench. Looks a nice setup. It's nicely laid out. The valves, that'll be a 6AN7, that's a 6N8, which you can see. 6GW8. Oh no, you can see it there. 6M5. Ah, okay. That'll be a 12AX7, 6M5 again, and a 6V4 for the rectifier. I can see a sheet of asbestos there. We'll get rid of that. It has a ferrite antenna, which is a little bit unusual on Aussie radios. This wire that I wasn't quite sure what it is, it's for the external antenna. I just noticed that. It says 11-133. I thought it was an 11-104. I'll have to see if there is such a thing as a 133. I'll turn it over and we'll have a look at the bottom. Alright, I flipped it over. There's some old electrodes. I'll have to get rid of those. Another one there. They'll be the 3 or 4 stages of voltages that will be supplied from the transformer. Another one there. Not sure what that will be. A little fella there. It's a mixture of new Phillips poly caps and some of the old wax caps. I'm not sure why they mixed them up. Would have been nice if they'd put all the poly caps in. These paper capacitors are going to have to go. That one might have melted a little bit there. Some wax there. Anyway, they're going to go. They look like the coupling caps. I'll need to go and check the resistors as well, make sure they're okay. But it looks pretty straightforward. Just change some capacitors, change some resistors if needed, and it'll be running. In fact, I do know it runs now. Why don't we turn it on? I'll see if it works. Before I put power on, I will replace the 2 coupling capacitors, And I'll go and see if I can find a schematic from 11-133. I've changed the two coupling capacitors. I'll put some power on. Before I do, I'll show you what I found out about model numbers. This one's mine. This is a 104. It ran from 66 to 1974. This is the one prior to it. It only ran a year. This is a 98. This is 65 to 66. So the 98 ran 1 year, 65 to 66. Then my 104 took over, and that was 66 to 74. In 1969 they released the 133, which is the same model number that was on the back of this chassis, and that ran from 69 to 75. And they're base model radiograms, so concurrently from 66 to 69 they ran the model 102, and from 66 to 70 they ran a model 103. Those two were high-end radiograms. They had three-way speakers each side and push-pull outputs. So mine is the base model, that's why it's just got two speakers. That's what I can work out. It may not be 100% accurate. I've downloaded the schematic. This suits the 98, the 104 and the 109, which I haven't seen that one. So what I said a second ago is probably incomplete. I replaced the coupling capacitor. No, where is it? There. And this says 0.022. The ones I pulled out were 0.0022 and not 0.022. I went through a whole load of schematics from these radios about the same time, even the one on the back of the cabinet, and they all had 0.022. So I don't know if that's a failure at the factory or it's a mod. Anyway, I've put in 0.022. Alright, I don't want to talk about model numbers anymore. I'll put some power on. It's on dim bulb. Bulb came on. This will work. I know it works because I already tried it. When I did try it, when I got it home, I used my field dim bulb. I haven't put full power on it yet. I'll use the built-in ferrite antenna, and I'll use the antenna coil that's connected to the mini whip outside. It should have warmed up. It is turned on. It's on gram, balance, tuning. So I'll put it to radio. So I'll see what I can get. No, I'll tune something in. Oh.
That's enough from me. People want to chat with you, Darren Lehman. 1300 558 222. Andrew is in WA. Hello, Andrew.
I think that's the cricket.
In track or tune in via the SEN.
See, that's nice and clear. It's on the shop speakers.
Open, or it could be just the manner in which the...
It's got a sticky hand.
This is the first one. So,
Sports station. So that's our music station. It's picking stations up further down the dial. I don't normally get them. Alright, and it's middle of the day, so alright, I'll put it back in the cricket.
The callers like you make it all the better to be perfect.
There's absolutely no hum at all. So it's working really well. The capacitors are still in good shape. I will replace them because, you know, you don't want them starting to heat up and burn out. So I will replace those. I'll just check the needle alignment there. I don't think it's right. There's ZL, so that should be 600.
Official terms of it. Yep. They use it as a guide for a lot of things.
Yeah, and the cricket is a bit over here. It should be a bit further over, so the indicator's out. I'll flip it over and see what components I'm going to need. I have the schematic here, and I think it's the right one. There's the 4 capacitors there, so that'll be that one, that one, that one, and that one. There's another one there. That's on the bottom of the 12AX7. There's the 12AX7, so there's a resistor there. Oh, there it is, there it is. So that's a bypass cap. It's the same as if it was paralleled with that resistor. It's 100 microfarad. There's only 1.5 volts on there, so it'll be a low voltage cap, C16. I looked it up, C16, 100 microfarad, and it's only 4 volts. I'll start replacing these, and as I said earlier, I'll check some resistors as I go, and I'll have to change all these paper ones as well. I'll put some music on, put some records on maybe, and just spend the afternoon quietly replacing them. I'll come back when it's all done. I've finished recapping. I've changed the capacitors, and I checked most of the resistors that I could. This one here was a little bit out, but that was the only one. The rest of them were perfect. They're well within the 5%. Here's the casualty list. There's the resistor I changed, and I changed this capacitor. It's got a crack at one end, so I replaced that. I'll turn it over again and make sure it still works. I've set it up. I'll put some power on. It's on a dim bulb at the moment. I'll take it off that in a minute. Should be okay. It's turned on. Alright, got a sec.
And Simon favourite is 1.
Some with stealth leak.
Yeah.
Really Pollock.
Okay, Brad, more details at 5:30 on 612 ABC Brisbane.
That's working alright. I'll put it on full power. The volume up again.
Bob
There
Seger
it goes.
and the Silver Bullet Band. No.
That's working alright. I'll remove this front panel now. I've got to check the dial string and replace it if it needs it, and I need to clean this, so I'll take that off and check the dial string. I've got the front out. I need to loosen these screws and take these screws out. I'll remove the glass and give it a good clean and polish up the chrome, and that's all I need to do to that. The dial string looks alright, but I have to take this panel off to see exactly what it's like. The string looks perfect. There's no fraying on it. Around the corners there, it's all perfect, so I won't bother changing it. The grease on the slide where the dial pointer runs is just gone hard. It's dried out, so I'll clean all that up, and that should make it a bit easier to slide along. But apart from that, just a bit of a clean up, and I'll put the cover back on. I've cleaned the glass up, and I've cleaned up this front plate. I actually polished it to try and get rid of some of the marks around here. I think bugs or something have been sitting there. Anyway, that won't come off. I'm not going to repaint it. It'll be fine like that. I was just about to fit it, and I thought, well, hang on, I need to adjust the pointer and zero it because I know it was out before, and also I've removed it and given it a coat of paint. Before I zero that, I'll make sure it's actually straight, so I just got a square here. I set it up by eye. I think it looks pretty good. I had to bend it around a bit, but yeah, that looks alright. Okay, I'm happy with that. The glass has a mark painted on it that you line this up with, so I'll run it down this end here until the capacitor bottoms out. There's two lugs on the front panel and some screws to locate it, so I'll just put those on. There's a little mark there. It's got PS on there, not quite sure what that means. So I need to slide this along a little bit. I have let go of the little grip in the middle here, so it will slide. Not far enough. Try that. A bit more. Ooh, not far. A little bit more. I reckon that's pretty good. Just make sure that is in fact bottomed. Check it again. I think that's perfect. I'll crimp the little tab here, and that will hold the string in position. There we go. There's 4 little sockets for external speaker, microphone, etc. And the plastic on it is just falling apart. So they've all gone into little bits here. I bought some replacements at the local electronics shop. I got 4 mono ones, but they're not switched, and the top 2 are in fact switched. The bottom ones were the ones that were broken, so I didn't buy the switch type. So I'll have to go back to the shop and get some of them. After I get the new parts, I'll assemble all this again, and I can check the alignment. I'll put the front back on. Glass is nice and clean. It looks good. Polish the knobs a little bit. I suspect the alignment is a little bit out, so I'm going to check it. I'm going to do it really quick because we've done it 100 times, so I don't want to just keep doing the same thing. So I'll set up to do that. I've got the radio powered up. I have the signal generator on 455. I'm going to use my oscilloscope to adjust it. I'm just looking for the maximum deflection there. Here are the 2 IF cans, so we'll do this one first. So getting a bit out of that one. Oh, I thought it was out a little bit, but not quite that much. We'll try this one. Right, that was okay, that one. And the bottom one here. I think that's where it was. Let's try the top. Yeah, that one's out a little bit. No, that one's not too bad. Alright, that's it. I shall do them all again, make sure they're okay, and come back and we'll do the RF. I'm set up for the RF alignment. I'm putting the signal in via this little coil here, this antenna coil. That's connected to the signal generator. The generator's on 600. The oscillator pattern adjustment is in here. This is the end of the oscillator coil. The oscillator trimmer is up here. There's the trimmer for the antenna, and of course the antenna padder is the actual ferrite antenna. As usual with our radios, there's no frequency markings. We know ZL in Hobart is 600, so I'll move it up there, and I'm just using the sound from the speaker to maximize it, not using any meters. So that looks absolutely spot on. I'll change this to 1500, which I think is 05. There it is on the presets. And I'll drive this up the other end. And we're going to go to 3AK right here. So that should be 15. Just turn that down a little. Alright, that's close enough. I'm not even going to bother with that. Just for fun, I'll check this trimmer here for the antenna. I've got the generator going up there. I'll just make sure it's about peaked. And there it is, perfectly peaked, and a little paint spot even lined up again. So it was perfect. The radio is pretty much done now, so I'll go and pull the record player up. We'll have a look at that. I've taken the record player out. I've mounted it in the RetrObright 3000. I built this a couple of years ago for a one-off repair, and I've sort of continued to use it and just modified it to suit the different decks. I've just finished updating it a little bit. It's not much different. It has a lock there, and you can take the lock out and it zooms over and you put the lock back in. On occasion I get people asking me how on earth you get these out of the cabinet. These are transit screws, and it has a little toggle clip on the top. And now to access the pins, sometimes they just have a little hole to get through. My radiogram here has the back open, so I can get my hand in there. You simply wind down both transit screws till they're fully home, access underneath it, and flip the little clip over. There's the other transit screw. I'll wind that right down and get my hand in there and flip that little clip over as well. And then it's just a matter of withdrawing the record player from the cabinet. So that's how it's done. If I get any more queries regarding this, I can just point them to that section of the video. Let's try it out. I know the record player actually works, but it has a problem, and I'll show you what it is. I'll put it on 45. I'll stick it to manual, and then I can put this on manually. There you go. Feel like a cigarette. Now what happens is it won't go past that point. I'm getting resistance. So if I drop the record now, it's just skipping because it can't go past that point there. Apart from that, it works pretty well. I think I know what's wrong with it. Let's take the platter off and we'll have a look. To remove the platter, you have to remove the little circlet, which is undone itself, so that's easy. And the platter should lift off. Now with the platter off, we can see the little cam here. This is what will be the problem. This will be frozen. The grease would have dried up, so that's very hard to move. That should be free. Now when the tone arm comes across to the end of the record and goes into that little groove at the end, it pushes this little kicker out and it hits a little foot on the platter, and that senses the end of the record and sends the tone arm back. Because this is all frozen, the tone arm is limited on how far it can go. When I pulled the record player out, I found a little circlip that fell on the ground, and it's off there. Somebody's tried to get this off and they couldn't do it because it'll be frozen onto that shaft. I've zoomed right into the pivot on this cam. I'll just put a little mark on it, and this pivot is just riveted over onto the metal base here, and most times that'll just spin. There it is. So this is completely frozen onto that pivot. I normally do this in my workshop outside, but I'll just use my soldering iron, so I'd normally use a flamethrower. That's hot enough now. I'm just trying to heat this center bit of the cam up, and you can see the old grease melting there. So this should just lift off now. There it is. How this works is that as the tone arm moves towards the center of the record, it pushes this little pin out, and it pushes on this little plate. Plate pushes the kicker into the path of the little foot that's going around on the platter, and eventually it balks on it and starts to rotate the cam, and then you go through the process of unloading the tone arm. If I put my finger there to simulate a frozen kicker, you can see the tone arm can't get all the way across. If I take the kicker away, or my finger, it can get all the way across, and normal operation is resumed. Right, here's the bottom of it, and it looks pretty daunting. It's not that bad. If you're going to try and do one of these, take photos, take lots and lots of photos, set up a video, just use your phone or something, and you can see how you take things apart, but photos will do. I have a few videos on how to do these, and I've gone pretty deep with it, so if you get into trouble you can just go and review some of those videos. But the idea is to get rid of this old dried up grease. The oils come out of the grease and just left the wax substrate that grease is made of, so you know it's just a sticky, treacly mess. To replace the grease in here, say this little spring just comes off like that, then that comes off. There's a spring up the end here, and you just turn that around and it's off. You can clean all that up. So that's still fairly greasy there, but up here as well, these circlips also come out. This plate will come off. You've got to maneuver it around this thing here. It's a little bit tricky, but it'll work. When you undo these little arms will fall away, but you just line them up, put them all back together, and it'll be fixed. Having said that, let's do it. I'll just take these circlips off. I was having trouble getting that one off. There we go. As I said, that will lift off there, and you have to get that over there. There it is. Right, and that's the little cam follower in there, and that's seized up as well. That should rotate. So there's the little arm that's moved away. You could take that off as well. It comes off somehow. That comes off somehow. There it goes. Now this little thing here is what's operating that little pin on the other side. And initially I oiled this, and then someone said, no, don't put any lube on that. That just needs to be free. No lubricant on that point there, or up here, anywhere on that little lever. So don't lubricate that. This is the little pin that lifts the arm up and down. So that comes out. You can clean that up, just clean it off. Put a bit of oil on it if you want, and it just pops back in. This old grease will clean off with a bit of solvent. Just clean it all up. Put a little bit of grease back on it. This lever here is the speed change mechanism, so all that needs to be lubricated as well. Take the grease off this little ripple plate here. I think the only thing holding this in is a spring, so you can just take all that off if you want. Down in the bottom corner here is the record sizing mechanism, and you can see that's just a little bit slow, so there's a lot of grease in there, and that needs to be cleaned up. It doesn't need that much grease on it. I also need to replenish the oil in the motor bearings. And you can just see here there's a little felt pad there, and there's one up the top as well. Have some good quality light machine oil, and it's just a matter of soaking the two felt pads until they won't take any more oil. You can just see it soaking away there. I'll just do it till it stops doing that. That isn't taking any more oil now. I'll do the top one, and that's all the motor needs. As I said, if you want to see a detailed lubrication of one of these, one of the earlier videos will have it. If I think of it, I'll stick it up in the top corner here. You can have a look then. I'll just do this off camera, just clean it all up, re-grease it, and we'll come back and set everything up. While I have this apart, I can reset the rivet, and that's the pivot for the cam. I'll spin it over. Here it is here. This is the pivot for that cam that was around here, and it was turning around. So I'll just take it out, put this on the vise, and I'll just tap the other side over to reset the rivet. I have the pivot resting on the top of my vise. I'll hit it with a center punch there just to spread it in the hole. Then I'll just gently sort of tap it around the edges there to flatten it out a bit more. I'll take it inside and I'll continue with the assembly. I've finished lubricating the bottom. I've flipped the record player upside down. There's a little O-ring around this center shaft here where the platter sits, and that's to absorb rumble, or help to anyway. I'll fit a new one. After that is a thrust washer, then the bearing pack, and that's been filled with grease, cleaned and filled with grease, and then the top thrust washer goes on top of that. The platter will now sit on top of that. The reason I put these on now is if you put the cam on, you can't get these washers past the cam. So I'll do it now so I don't forget. The rubber idler wheel is in good condition. I'll remove it and then I can clean it. It's got a little nylon washer there as well. I'll get that off. And take the wheel off. There's a little phenolic washer there that goes on first, then the wheel. The tyre on the idler wheel is in very, very good condition. It doesn't even look like it's hard. I'll just very lightly sand it, and then I'll put some rubber renew on it, and that'll go for another 50 years. This end of record sensor is very stiff, so I'll pull that apart. Just the circlip. There's another circlip. And I'll see if I can push this through. That is not even going to come out. No, I'll have to heat it up with my soldering iron. I've had the soldering iron on here for a minute or so. We'll see if that's going to let it move. No, it's not. Alright, I'll keep heating it. I'll give that away. I can feel the heat coming down here, so it should come out. Doesn't want to. I don't really want to leave it too much against this aluminium casting. Wow, that is just not moving. I'm getting desperate. I'm pushing down on the block of wood on the little end of the pivot here. It's still not moving. I've got this out in the workshop now. I've heated it up with the butane torch, and maybe that'll be enough heat. I'll just put it in my drill press, and I've got a couple of sockets there to spread the load a bit, and hopefully that'll push through. There it goes. Alright. I should be able to pull it all the way out now. There it is. That is the hardest one I've ever had to do. They normally come out alright. Now, I'm going to put this back together. I've got to clean it up. I won't put any oil on this. I'll just clean all the grease out and I'll leave it all dry. I'll try and clean this pin up. I might have to go and just run a bit of fine wet and dry around there to just get that off. May have corroded a little bit perhaps. I've soaked the rag in some oil and grease remover, so I'll just clean the hole out a bit if I can. Seems to be removing it. I used a bit of steel wool on that just to clean that last bit of residue off. We'll see how it goes now. That's perfect. Yeah, so I'm not going to lubricate that. I'll put the clip back on. And now the little kicker goes on. Okay, so there it is, and that's absolutely loose. Don't put any lubrication on there at all, and that'll stay like that forever. I cleaned the idler wheel up and put a bit of rubber and new on it, so I'll see how that goes. I'm not going to lubricate that. I used to, but I found that it tended to dry out a little bit after a while, so I don't do it anymore. Time to put the cam on. You might remember that little roller had seized. I managed to free it up. I'll just put a little drop of, this is clock oil actually. I've put a bit of grease around this pivot here. I've also put a little bit of grease in the cam track there. So that goes on there. You just got to line up the cam follower there in the cam. There we go. And it should end up about there. And as I said, if you put the cam on first, you can't then get the thrust washers on. The wheel where it strikes the little spindle there is hitting up too high there. I've got it on 33, so it needs to be more to the center there. Underneath there's some little flat spring here and some detents. If I was to grab that and lift it up, it will lower the wheel onto the spindle. So I've got it on 16, 33, that's better, 45 and 78. Go the other way. Yep, that's very good. Alright, that's done. I can put the platter on now. Don't grease this. This just has some oil on it. The bearing in there is permanently lubricated. And then that should just fall down. There we go. And now the circlip goes on. That little flat bit goes in the slot there. And you try and clip that together. It should clip in there. It's not easy. I've got the stylus under the microscope here. It's the top one, that's the 4533. The one on the bottom's the 78. But they both look alright. So they'll be okay for a little while longer. It's all complete. I'll test it out. I'll do an automatic load. I've never tried that because that cam was stuck, it was jammed. So we just check the landing point here. That looks good. A bit of volume on. That's Frankie Avalon, of course, Venus. Can't play a lot of that, of course. sounds good. I'll check to see if we can get to the end of record here, and that should run, and it should lift and go home. There it goes, and it'll turn off because this bar is down. So that's working really nicely now. I've loaded a 45 in. We'll just select 45 on the speed selector, and once again I'll do an auto, and we'll see if that lands in the right place, and it does. Some volume up. Now, wasn't that on every ad back in the 70s? I'll see if it's going to auto shut off. Gotta do it slowly. No, it's too quick. It's going to work anyway. I'll just have to run it in the edge, because if you attack this too quickly, that's what triggers the reject. I'll put it on manual. I'll just put it over here somewhere. I'll let it play through, and when it gets to the end and starts moving quickly, that should trigger the reject. Now it should go into the quick track there, and up it goes. Fantastic, working beautifully. We'll check the speed and the whoa, so I use my little phone app here. I'll put that onto manual. It's on 33 RPM or 33 and a third. Let's see what we're going to get. Looks pretty good. That will also tell me the whoa, which we'd hope to get down somewhere near 20. There it is, or 0.20 I should say. It's exactly 0.20, so that's good. 33.39. It's pretty good. That's pretty good. So absolutely perfect there. I want to check the weight of the tone arm. That's set to grams. I've zeroed it, and we're looking between 4 and 6. 5.5. So I'll try and lighten it a little bit. The tone arm weight adjustment is in here. You can normally only lift the tone arm that high. There's a little catch at the back. If you push that in, you can go further. Here's the tone arm adjustment here. It's a little ratchet clip thing. It's got a little spring there, and you can pull it this way, and that will reduce the weight. If you need to go that way, you have to lift this little spring here, and you can get it from the side, I think. Yeah, like that. So if I lift that, it'll pop down there. Then you pull it, and it'll increase. Oops. And it will increase until you get what you want. So I just want to make it slightly lighter, so I'll just come up, I think, one more click if I can do it. Just get one more. There we go. We'll try that. So let's see what we've got now. 4.71. We'll try it there. That's about as close to 5 as we're going to get. I'll try it with the lower weight. If it skips or skids, we'll have to increase the weight again. This is working really well. I'm going to keep monitoring it. I'll put some more records on, get some 45, some 10-inch maybe, and just mix it up a little and make sure it plays all right. I'll do that while I do some editing. There's adjustments for landing and how high it lifts. They're all back on the back of the tone arm there. There is a manual available. You can download it. It's got all the information you need to service one of these in an exploded view. So if you want to try one of these, it's pretty straightforward. As I said, take lots and lots of photos and video if you can, and you won't get into trouble. There's also videos around like this one. This series will be over several parts. I still have to do the case. The speakers have been eaten by bugs, and I also have a secret module I'm going to fit, and it's not Bluetooth. So on that note, with Frankie singing in the background there, I'm going to end the video. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. If you do need more information on these record players, I did do some more videos, so you can go back and look at those. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you can join me next time for my next radio adventure.